Now, one of the things that I love most is the lower lateral or central incisors, because if the upper lateral incisor is it's really difficult and it's a quest and it's a challenge. The lower ones, oh boy, I have seen a lot of failures on replacing single lower central incisors. And why? Because they're so small, mesodistal, and the bone that is available has some anatomical features that turns this a very difficult situation. Now, I've seen implants being placed in the two buccal situation to have recession, and the patient comes with an osseointegrated implant, but with a bone defect that becomes harder to solve. So in these type of situations, the best thing that you can do in treatment plan is to hit at first time. So if you hit at the first time, you avoid problems, later problems for the patient. Now, these lower central incisors, I think it represents well. This is a perfect example of a patient, a rare situation, I admit, because they normally don't miss the two lateral lower incisors and the other ones are good. But in this case, everything is correct. So the two central incisors have the correct bone proportions, not have loss of insertion, not have periodontal problems. So you only actually need to replace the two lower lateral incisors. And that's what we did. So the first thing that we're going to do is, once again, turn our analogic patient into our digital patient and start to plan the case. And here you see again on the software planning two lateral incisors for screw retain restorations, because we don't want them to come to buckle and we want to have a screw retain restoration. So this was the plan that we did. So this is very interesting because now you can play with software. On the left side, you have the 3Shape software, the implant studio. On the right side, you have the co-diagnostics from Dental Wings. And I see the same case being planned in two different softwares. And you can see that you going in the same direction. You only go, the appearance of the software is that is very different. Now, for me, one of the big differences between the two softwares, this is the two major softwares that I work with, is that 3Shape asks you for the correct tooth position, while the co-diagnostics, the first thing that it asks you is that where is my CT scan? So there's two philosophies here. Of course, you can place the teeth later on, but one is prosthodontically driven and the other is bone driven. And that's a huge difference between one resembles more the traditional Simplant softwares, while the other comes from the prosthodontic situation. So it has a lot of advantages. But either of two, the main idea of these softwares is the same, is that you import your CT scan, you import your digital impression, and you start to work towards to getting a digital surgical guide and a provisional restoration. So the way that they're displayed, the software is displayed, is that it's a little bit different. If I place here SEDEC and Planmeca and Sirona and Zirconzan and so on and so on and so on, it would be very different. But actually, they do the same stuff. Well, some has special features, some of them don't, but mainly is the aim is to get a surgical guide and a provisional restoration. Now, you see here on the planning that this is a 2.9 situation. You only have you only have about 3.5 millimeters. So the 2.9 implant to be in a prosthodontic position, a screw retained situation, it only has one place to go. It's that situation over there. If you don't hit the drill on the first time, there's no room for angulation. So this is the planning. So how can we do this freehand? Very difficult. You need to open a big flap, a lot of experience, and then place the implant on the correct position. With a surgical guide, it's totally different. You don't need to go to the surgery with big flaps and big things to see the bone. You only have to do the surgical guide, and then from the surgical guide, you do the drilling protocol in order to place your implants. Now, we are ready to go for immediate loading with non-occlusal contact, because he knew that we're going to have a high primer stability. So in looking on the lower right corner, you see that implant placement now is guided through the first drill that you did according to your surgical guides. And now, because everything was ready from the beginning, this is a case where we planned the surgical and we planned the provisional restoration And so we went in, placed the implants, and placed the provisional restoration. Now you can see it on the movie that we did not open a big flap. We did not open a tremendous flap. We just there, we inserted our surgical guide, and then from our surgical guide, we did our drilling protocol. And when our drilling protocol is correct, then your provisional restoration will be correct. So in these cases, we can see that we finished the case with two provisionals on the lateral incisors with no big flaps and no big retractions. So of course then you can open your imagination and pigment the crown, do some stuff, do some, well, that's aesthetic. You can do it or not.